Okay. Oh, is that good? Are those the brushies you wanted? Are these the brushies you wanted?
Alright, we should be live.
That is a very brazen squirrel. I don't know if you can see him at the base of the tree.
I can, yeah.
That is a baby? Is that making you nervous, sweetheart? Okay. And the only animal that's supposed to be an ambassador for gray wolves afraid of squirrels. You afraid of squirrels, bud? Okay. No, you're gonna move her out of the way. Okay. Competition for brushies. All right. Okay. Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
Okay, we are properly live, and
Groovy. Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am. This is a Wendy's. This is a Wendy's. No, that's not what that means. Thank you. Oh my goodness, it has been a day. Hi. Hi. Okay. That's you. You're so gross.
Okay, so they have, what do they have right now? Is that watermelon over there?
Yeah, so we cut up watermelon, see if they'd want some watermelon today, and I've eaten 2 of the slices. Hi, bud. Hi. And this is a precursor to chicken thighs a little bit later. And today is one of their raw days. Well, that's not true. They get raw every day, but this is, a no kibble day. This is strictly just raw fruits, raw veggies, raw meats. Oh my goodness. So.
That squirrel was incredibly bracing. It was all the way up next to the lion.
Right? I don't think I've seen a squirrel be that bold, but the babies this year just, they don't give a care in the world. Yeah, he's just chilling. Oh my goodness, you get butt brushies? You get butt brushies right here. Is this your butt? Okay. Look at this disgusting rat tail that she has going. Yeah, I'm showing off your disgusting rat tail. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Try not being...
It'll come into full bloom next year, surely.
It will. When Tibby was about this age, he had a similar tail, although it wasn't as bitten here because he tends to pull her tail, so she's missing hair right there. I know. Oh, nobody but you. I got it. Only Zoo. I'm sorry, Tibby. That's the only thing that Snuffles can say that you can't. So if you're just tuning in, today we are planning to talk about non-lethal wolf and livestock mitigation methods, which is a huge mouthful to say. Basically, we're looking for non-lethal ways to manage wolves attacking livestock. That's really what it comes down to. There are plenty of methods that are out there. The downside is some are only effective for a small period of time or a short period of time before, want more brushies? Before wolves become habituated to it. And what that means is before they get used to it. And hi, can I help you? You want these brushies. Got it. He's particular about his brushy type, just so you know. They are in the middle of shedding season right now, so we try to come out here on the daily with a brush in hand. You want this? This is yours. That came off of your stinky butt. Hi. I know. But yeah, we try to stay on top of it for their own comfort. Nobody likes having itchy sides. So, are you just chilling, Ryan? So yeah, there are a lot of different non-lethal methods out there. Some are super effective in some regions, some are not very effective in those same regions. And with livestock mitigation or conflict mitigation, terrain is always an issue. So you'll have areas that are super densely forested, you'll have areas that are very open. You'll have cattle or sheep or other livestock that graze on BLM leased lands, which means there's no fencing that can be put up on those lands. It's as natural as we can keep it. Here, Dibby, do you want this? I'm gonna put it right here for you. Okay? Is that good? All right. What? Brushy's here? Okay. There. My knee is a chin rest. So, and in case you're wondering why I'm dumping this on the ground, normally it will fly around the yard or fly around in their enclosure, and birds will come pick up some of it and use it for their nest. So we are helping. That's what I like to tell people.
Yes, we are. I've seen plenty of birds come in and grab huge tufts of their fur, brazenly, I might add, while they're in the pen, like right next to them.
Yeah, no, our wildlife here doesn't seem to really care that we have these animals here. Oh, you being brave, bud? Is that a squirrel? So, for those of you who may not know, Tibby is afraid of squirrels. He does not like them. He gets really nervous when he sees them in trees or out on the grass. The fact that he's looking at the squirrel and not running away or trying to hide or cower is a big step for him. But he also doesn't seem too interested in trying to eat it. He's more curious and I think trying to figure out if it's going to eat him. It's not going to eat you, baby. Okay? I promise. I mean, it might in your sleep, but that's a problem for you later tonight, huh? Yeah, that's a problem for you. That's not my problem. That's a Tibby problem. What? Oh, was that a big sigh?
You want me to kick off the conversation by starting off with one of the talking points?
I mean, if you want to. Like, this is more of an open discussion, so if you want to, if there's something that you find particularly interesting, then, tell me. We'll talk about it. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot to non-lethal, like, conflict management with wolves. There's a lot of different approaches out there, and I guess trying to find the one that's the most effective. Oh my god, his hair flew directly at the camera.
No, I can't just make it happen. No, it's not working. So yeah, I mean, like I was saying a little bit earlier, there are many, many different methods, and there are different groups that work within the confines of certain methods in their regions to try to figure out what's going to be the best for them. Wood River Wolf Project, they actually work on, I think it's Flandry, foxlights, range riders, and possibly livestock guardians. Don't quote me because I'm not positive on that one. But
what are foxlights?
So foxlights are like almost like big giant flashlights or lanterns, and what they do is they go off intermittently at different times. Sometimes it's motion sensing, so something will walk by to trigger that. Do you want more? Am I not paying attention to you enough? So sometimes it'll be movement that sets it off. Other times it could go off on rotation. Are you okay? Are you dying? Are you extra lovey? Okay, come here and tell stories. Yes, that's right, you tell stories. So they're bright flashes of lights, think like strobe lights almost. And that bright light scares off wild animals. Are you kidding me? This is what I exist for. But those bright lights will go off, and when animals are not expecting it, or predators like wolves are not expecting it, they'll go, oh shit, and then run away. Or that's the theory. And it does work sometimes. Other times, it really depends on how long or how often the wolf is encountering it, and whether or not it stays habituated in favor of avoiding that area or not. What we don't see, and what we haven't seen a lot of, are actual studies, like peer-reviewed studies, that will determine the efficacy or effectiveness of all of these methods. Like I said, Wood River Wolf Project is working towards research into the best methods for their region, but that's always going to be different, right? Like I said, some areas are more open than others. Some deal with difficult terrain. Some deal with the inability to put up fencing or flandering. You want to tell stories? Here. Are you kidding? Okay, there. So, I'm just a chair.
Yeah, you're just a chair. He just wants to sit on you.
He's going to sit on me and drool on me and look majestic. What are you doing? Are you looking majestic? You're my most majestic baby. Here, you want this? Look at all this. Yeah. That smells like, yeah, that's your butt. You're welcome.
Here's a question for you.
Huh?
Are there any non-lethal methods that are not ethical towards the treatment of the animal?
So, I feel like that could be a loaded question. Only because, is it ethical to deter them from that territory in the first place? And I think that's what that question poses. Is it ethical to deter them from an area that they naturally inhabit? So there are some people and advocates that will say, absolutely, we shouldn't even have to worry about deterring them. If they want to prey on those animals, then so be it.
Yep.
But that is not the correct answer, in my opinion, or in the organization's opinion. And I'm going to take that stance. I think that it is perfectly okay to not love the idea of having to chase these animals off of particular lands that they inhabit or that they once inhabited naturally. But the fact of the matter is, we have to learn how to coexist with all of the elements of nature, right? We have to learn how to coexist with wolves when also maintaining small farms or family farms. And I've said this before, I think a lot of people believe that all of the ranchers that have issues with wolves are large farms. Tibby, here. You get snacky? Here. Right, no, that's the wrong here. It's here. Like right here. No, right here. It's this hand. No, sir. Here? Oh, okay. Sit. You made an effort. Here. It's in there. I think a lot of people assume that all ranches are large ranches that have the means and the size of large agribusiness, and they don't. Oh, hi. Now you want to come say hi? No. Would you like to sit? Hey, I have it. Good girl. Down. Good girl.
He's after them.
Down. Good girl. But not all ranchers are large-scale operations. There are ranchers that only have a few head of cattle. I know we thought personally for a while of starting our own small herd. And by small, I mean we don't have the funds to have 50 head. We have the funds for nice stock. Maybe, excuse you, ma'am. No. No. Down. No, we're not playing that game.
He's trying so hard.
Is it in there? I'm going to throw it right in there, buddy.
So, I have one more question.
Sure.
For agribusiness and for ranchers and anyone that has livestock, is the price of non-lethal conflict management on their heads, or is it on the states? Or is this something that should be taken up by conservation groups to pay for?
So, again, kind of hard question to answer, only because the state is allotted federal funding to try to aid in non-lethal management methods. And part of those funds can be used to further research non-lethal methods. Part of that funding can be used to help implement those same methods. And then part of those funds are used to compensate ranchers who lose their stock due to predation from wolves or other predators. I can't, discount bears or coyotes or cougars or any other large natural predator in those respective areas. Did you bury your watermelon? How is that good? How does that taste good?
It's like pop rocks.
Oh my God. Okay. Like, they naturally bury their food, which is totally fine, but generally we provide areas for them to bury so, rocks don't get in their food. But clearly, she had other ideas. You're going to see them fight over a piece of watermelon when there are other pieces of watermelon. Oh, there we go. Where was I? Okay, so you could have ranchers that decide, okay, well, we're not getting the funding, so we're going to fence our land and put up Flandry because that may be the most cost-effective method for them. Another, now you're seeing, he doesn't want that piece of watermelon, he wants her piece of watermelon. Did you get kicked out of the watermelon business, buddy? Okay, that's right. You go hide it over there.
Maybe can't get it.
What happened, bud? Can you do sit? Son, can you do a sit, please? That's gross. That was in my mouth. Can we work on down? That's good enough. Oh, I missed. There we go. So it can be up to the rancher or farm owner to try to implement methods of like non-lethal mitigation, or they could potentially receive help from the state or federal funds or other nonprofits. I know that there are some area nonprofits that work with their local ranchers and agribusiness economy to make sure that they can assist. Because ultimately it's what's best for the environment is to make sure that these guys have a place in it. I'm not going to give you any more. It's not happening. It is so chilly out here. Just so you guys know, it is windy and I'm cold.
It says it's 66, but I don't believe it. It's probably down in the 50s with the wind factor.
That is a lie. It is not. It is not 66. Can you give me a bean? Bean. Good boy. Oh my God, I wasn't expecting you to actually give me beans. Thank you. I was delayed in that. That's my bad. Okay, sit. Gross. Beans. No. Beans. No. What a good boy. You're so good. Thank you for that. Why are you looking at that? You have watermelon. Go get your watermelon. Weirdo. Sit. Beans. Beans. You are like hyper. Beans. Oh no. There you go. Gross. So really there's no like one correct answer here. It could be up to the rancher, could be up to federal or state funds to help. When it comes to research, that is not something that ranchers and agribusiness normally fund. But what we are seeing is that there's some new technologies and some more innovative methods that are coming to light that local cattlemen associations are really excited about and want to fund and implement. And that's part of the reason we launched our Aerial Allies campaign, because we really think that drone hazing wolves to stop predation is a fantastic tool. And the research so far that was done in 2022, it's very promising. So they don't have a published paper out yet. They're working on it. It does take time to get to that point, but it is in the process. Preliminary results show that predation was reduced from, I believe, 11 over the course of 2 weeks to 2 over the course of 85 days.
That's huge.
Yeah, it is an incredibly effective method. However, it does require the use of ground crews to operate drones, and there are limitations in terms of battery life. And there's further research needed, but the point that I was trying to make is that this is a new innovative technology that is out there and needs further funding and further research, and local cattlemen associations are assisting, which is fantastic. It is wonderful to see the other side that is always villainized as like the big bad rancher. Ooh, you guys can't see it. Oh my God, it's off camera and I'm sad. They're fighting over the little piece of watermelon. What happened? Do you want that piece that's over there? That's not as good? Okay. You want brushies? Here. I know. Shame on her, she won't give you the watermelon. Now you're gonna go take. You want brushies now? You're disgusting. Come here. No, she can't have brushies. Can you make up your mind on what you guys want to do? So I like this new technology, not just because it's tech, but it's something that seems to be supported by what most advocates consider the other side. And I think that's really cool, man. Like I love to see the steps taken to try to bridge that gap and find effective. You cannot have the brush. It's not going to happen. You cannot have the pack. It's not going to happen. Ma'am, this is a Wendy's? What are you doing? No. You can't have it. No, that's not yours. You can't have it either. either. It's not. There's nothing here that you guys can take. It's strapped to me. Thank you. Are you trying to eat it?
Is saying that they are so much like R2 high contents.
Right? Like they're like, hey, what do you got? What do you got? What do you got? So I do think that there's a lot of potential in this new technology. I think there's more research to be done. And in the conversations that we've had with USDA, APHIS, and the lead researchers on this project, they don't know how effective this is truly going to be in terms of how long to habituation. They have not researched that. They're not sure if they're moving the quote-unquote problem, which is the wolf attacking livestock, just pushing it over to a neighbor's property, or if that animal goes back into what they would consider their natural habitat to prey on animals that are, other ungulates. So there's definitely more research that needs to be done. They're also concerned about how this may affect other wildlife in the area. They don't want to have success on one front, only to have that be a detriment to other wildlife in the area. So that is something that they are very cognizant of, and they do believe needs more research. Other options that they're looking at is, right now drones are super effective when it comes to having a speaker and having a human voice, like a human element to come out of that speaker.
Yeah.
They, again, want to know how long it takes for an animal to become habituated to that sound or to the drone, but what else could they possibly do to assist that? And part of that is, well, maybe flashing lights, maybe other sounds. They're not entirely certain yet, so they're looking at exploring those options and looking at the cost element. One of the issues, did she take that watermelon too?
Did she all the watermelon, just putting it in a corner?
Yeah, she's putting it in her little hovel over there. What happened? Is it all gone? Here, you want brushes. You get the brushes.
It would be interesting to see if they would be, because I know that human scent along perimeters can be a deterrent for them as well.
It can. So that's why range riders are fairly effective in areas. I say fairly because, to my knowledge, I haven't seen a peer-reviewed study that actually details how effective range riders are, but anybody who has experienced wild wolves, you know that they're not particularly fond of humans, and they don't necessarily look at a range rider as a snack. They go, no, I think I'm good, and move along. So one of the things that I would really like to see, again, more research into each one of these methods, but I have a crazy idea that I have shared with USDA APHIS, because they hate the scent of humans so much. I want to know how. Are you going to tease him with it now? You're thinking about it? Okay. I want to see how effective human hair might be. Think about every time that you've gone to a barber shop or a salon and had your hair cut, and they just dispose of the hair in your normal waste pile, right? But what happens if you find enough of that to collect and put it on a perimeter? It spreads naturally when it's windy. It smells not just like one person, but multiple people. Is that something that would be enough to deter an animal that's cost effective? And I have no answers for that. That's literally like shower thought, or like 3 a.m. and you wake up and you're like, oh my God. And you think you're brilliant for like 2 seconds before you go back to sleep, and then wonder what you thought about at 3 a.m. that woke you up. It's one of those. So I think that there are other things to potentially explore. Again, we're really excited about the drone project because we think that there's buy-in from other sides, and I think there needs to be more buy-in and awareness from an advocacy point of view. Are we having problems, guys? Are you okay? Come here. What happened? Did she take it and you're upset? He has such very strong feelings. Did it hurt your feelings? Here.
Well, this might combine nicely with the drone program if they are able to put payloads on drones, and in areas where the wolves are being scared off, like the ability to drop air in the area afterwards to prevent them from coming back, or to deter them from coming back.
So not the hair specifically, but that is something that they're thinking of in terms of, well, what else can we possibly do with these drones? They're looking at automated patterns. They're looking at motion sensors that launch drones, so programs that detect that there is activity in one area, send drones out. But none of that has been researched. I know, right here. Okay, I got it.
Well, that would be ideal if drones and human voices do the trick. They can have recharge pads or drones that they automatically fly to and from, following a perimeter area, making noise, and then flying back to recharge again at any point in time that there's and it's triggered.
Yeah. So I know for a fact that APHIS, their research center, is looking at basically a hay wagon, like an old wagon that is moved into a middle of the field that feeds the cattle, right, that grains the cattle, but also at night launches essentially RC cars that do the same thing, that have speakers, that have lights. They're basically the ground version of what they're doing with drones. Again, huh?
Are they automated? The RC cars?
No, they require a human element as well. So that's one thing I know that they're trying to eliminate, is the dependence on a human element, but it's always going to have to be there. I'm really excited. I'm kind of shocked that the community doesn't talk more about this. You happy girl? Go ahead.
He's loving the watermelon.
Oh, she is like in heaven. Hey, Wyatt, can I say hi? No, it's not a hi. I don't have anything. I don't have nothing. I mean, that's true. It's not true. I have things. I'm just not giving them to you right now.
But it's very exciting. The idea that there may be a point in time where a rancher can be either donated or purchase a kit that they can map out their area that is, their land perimeter, and have that drone. That's lovely. All the hair to the face.
I picked the wrong time to let that go. Just right back into my face.
We're gonna be able to actually essentially create like a visible barrier that wolves are going to be. They're not going to want to try and pass.
Yeah, so I know that Voyager's Wolf Project out in Minnesota, they helped a local rancher in the greater Voyager's ecosystem put up fencing. Nothing particularly special about this fencing. I believe it was just a 4-foot fence. Did you just, that's gross. But it helped significantly with deterring wolves away from that property, which seems silly. A 4-foot fence, you'd think, well, you could just get over it. It's no problem. The reason that we have what looks like a raptor pen for our animals, and I know the folks over at Wild Spirit absolutely know what I'm talking about. These things have no problem getting over 6-foot fences. They have no problem climbing 8 to 10 foot fences. You're not eating this. No, you have watermelon to eat. You're not eating that comb. Nope, I'm attached to it. Like, you strong, but you can't lift my fat ass. I know.
But if she doesn't
Beans?
sit, you know,
Good girl, give me the beans. I'm not going to give you anything except praise. I'm sorry. Are you sad? Oh, your tail looks so disgusting, Wyatt. So, yeah, these animals have no issue climbing over fences. So it was really interesting, actually, to see that a 4-foot fence was enough of a deterrent for these animals to not want to jump over. When they did breach those fence lines, it was because they found a way to get under them. So I thought that was incredibly interesting and not something that I would have thought of having experience with these animals. So I absolutely would have thought that they would have jumped the fence before trying to go under. So that's a lot of effort. There were more things that I was saying. I had a train of thought and then this interrupted it. You interrupt everything.
well, we were talking about the Aerial Allies program and the research there, and then the assistance in putting a 4-foot fence up, and the effectiveness of a 4-foot fence. In fact,
Yeah, so I think I really have no idea what I was saying. So I'm just going to go off on another tangent here, and you guys have to deal with it. And sorry, not sorry. I think that there could be potentially cost prohibitive issues with every method that there is, whether it's whether there's fencing, whether there's range riders or livestock guardians, or another thing that we really thought about very heavily was trying to work with the BLM or Forest Service, which are the two agencies that manage wild horses and burros on American lands. So for those of you that don't know, I've worked with the BLM before with wild horses, and I currently have one not managed by the BLM, managed by the Forest Service out back. So I love Mustangs. I think they're great. What I would love to see are wild burros introduced back on to public lands that are managed by the BLM for grazing rights. But burros are very protective. There is a reason that people have them in small farms or farmettes, and I think that it may be worth the experiment. I know that they were doing some experimentation up in Colorado, I believe, and I don't know the results of that. It hasn't been widely talked about, and when we did reach out, we haven't heard anything back yet. So I think that there are always going to be cost barriers associated to trying to institute a non-lethal method. You want the head brush eat? You're not going to get it. Stop trying. Yeah, I don't know. I think drones could potentially be cost effective if you reduce the human element. Otherwise, the 85-day study that was done by USDA was roughly 130,000, give or take, which is a significant amount of money. However, if you have less reliance on a human element, potentially automated cycles for drones or automated programming for drones, and you have ranches that are next to each other all pitch in, the potential grows, right? So I don't know if you can see Tiddy on camera.
you can, sadly.
You can't?
Can't see him now.
I thought maybe you'd get his butt. He's over here, just passed out.
Fuego says, glad they're not camera shy.
I mean, to be fair, the space that they are in right now, this is what we call their streaming space. They don't know that, but this is their streaming space. And it's only about 1,000 square feet. So they don't have a whole lot of places to hide in here. And then there's another 3,000 square foot attached to this that you can't see on camera. But most of the time, they choose to be here. If they didn't want to be in here, they would be sitting over by that gate waiting to go back outside. So, yeah, they're sweet in that they like to be interactive most of the time. Although last week, Tibby was done. He went into one of the little windbreaks and took a nap. He didn't want to participate until midway through.
Yeah, completely checked out almost the entire time.
Did you hear the pouch open? No, ma'am. Ma'am, this is a Wendy's. This is a Wendy's.
If anyone watching has questions regarding non-lethal wildlife management,
No.
regarding
No,
their
ma'am.
effectiveness or the different methods out there, let us know.
Hey, you sit. Wait.
At the end of the day, I do believe that the ranchers need to adopt these methods. They cannot be forced upon them.
Yeah, that is the thing. You know, you need buy-in because you do have ranchers and agribusiness or whole ass communities that think the only good wolf is a dead wolf. And they don't see the value that they bring to an ecosystem, namely because these animals are a pest or maybe ruining their livelihood. And make no mistake, you take a handful of cattle off of a ranch that has 5,000 to 7,000 head, that's not a huge impact that they feel. But you do that to a rancher that only has 16 to 20 head of cattle, that's a problem. And you're impacting their livelihood. And whether or not you like it, it does impact local economies. It does impact the price of the goods sold in those local economies. And one of my favorite examples to share has nothing to do with cattle or wolves. It has to do with emu and cougars. And it's a small ranch, an emu farm, and they are based up in Montana. They supply one of the local towns there with emu oil and a whole bunch of byproducts from that emu that helps other small businesses and farms who use that byproduct to sell their own goods, create their own goods, and sell in the local economy. And one year, that emu farmer had a cougar that was preying on their property, and they put up a whole bunch of different methods that they thought would deter it, and they ended up losing a good amount of their stock to this cougar before it was finally shot and killed. And what that ended up meaning was that there were several businesses that could not operate, or if they chose to operate and imported, that sounds like they're importing from a different country, bought goods outside of their local economy, that drove up the prices of their goods sold. And ultimately, it ended up being a bad couple of years for a handful of small businesses, two of which I know for a fact suffered horrendously. One went out of business. And you don't think about that when you're advocating for these animals. You think about the value that they bring, but not the detriment that they can bring. And that's not a fair comparison, right? If you want to look at the animal, you have to look at the whole picture. right? You have to look at all of the good shit that they do in the environment and all of the bad shit that they can do. It's not one or the other. Obviously, we feel like they bring more value to the environment than detriment. But that doesn't mean that we can't work towards eliminating some of the risks or eliminating some of the bad that stands to outweigh the good at times. I'm going to try to sit down on the ground without making them get up. We're going to see.
The light's right through, and we can kind of see Tibby's butt.
Hey, Tibby. They see your butt, Bubba. They see your butt. Thank you. That was gross. Hi. You're not going to take it. Oh, is this mutual grooming time? Are we doing the grooms? Are we doing the grooms? We're doing the grooms. We're doing some grooms. Hi. But yeah, obviously we're biased to some extent. Uh-oh. There we go. It's watermelon. Did you get it, sweetheart? Yeah, okay. He got the watermelon. What happened, bird? Is he going to bury it over there because he's gross? Would you like some brushies? Yeah? Okay. You're doing it wrong, bud.
The wind looks like it's...
I couldn't hear you. What'd you say?
The wind looks like it's picking up.
It is, and it's chilly, and the sun's being blocked out by clouds, and I don't like it. I'm just going to complain. But yeah, there's really cool methods out there. I really think that the more we talk about it, the more we try to look at things from a different perspective, the more successful we're going to be in buy-in from all sides, right? I want wolves to inhabit their natural landscapes and environments, their historic ranges, because I feel like they add value, not just as apex predators, but as a keystone species. They change the landscapes, they change hierarchy, and I think that they have a critical role to play. And I'm not going to look at any rancher or farmer and tell them that they're in the wrong for choosing that line of business. I think that's really shitty. And I think it paints advocates in a bad light. There is common ground. We just need to acknowledge that we have different perspectives and work towards a common solution. Bird, here, what's this? It's right there. You have more right there. It's right there.
She doesn't want that.
She doesn't want that. What are you doing? Hey, want brushies? Did that feel good? Want to see more?
So do you feel like there's a combination of lethal and non-lethal for wolf management in the end? Do you feel like that may be necessary? Or can we have full lethal management of wolves and avoid lethal kill tags for these animals?
So this is where I may alienate some of the base that we are trying to build here. I think lethal management is sometimes necessary for all species. What I see as a problem right now is the way that species are managed, where we're not using whole data as an approach to their management. Do I think that we have enough wolves in existence right now to manage them via lethal means? No, I don't. I believe, based on the science and the data and the research, that these animals should be placed back on the endangered species list across all states, and we should be expending more efforts to monitor their numbers their pack sizes, all sorts of data.
Your microphone has cut out. Are you able to wiggle the antenna that's behind you? No, nothing. It has gone. Well, that's unfortunate. Technical difficulties. We will be right back. I have, in fact, because this has happened before, audio issues will fix soon. It's coming back up. All right, 1 second, guys. Okay, can you try talking again? No luck? Nothing? This is unfortunate. This is very unfortunate. This was working just fine a minute ago. And it was showing it working just fine a minute ago. Strange. Alright, 1 sec again, guys. Okay.
Nothing?
No, we're back.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, you know
Yay! What?
something shifted and it flipped the mute button on.
I am my own worst enemy. All right, now I will make my way back out to the Puffy Wolves.
Okay, we fixed it. Oh my god.
It has been like the last 3 weeks. There's always been something. And then today, the camera wouldn't work, which is why we were late starting. But what was worse is somehow I managed to, while sitting there, mute myself. So, you're welcome. I don't have anything, like truly, now I don't have anything for you guys. I know, I'm the worst.
Wiggles, I don't know if you're still here, but I know you asked with regards to rules. I heard there's a 3-day, 3-week, 3-month rule. Is there any reason to deviate from this, especially if they are in danger?
Can you elaborate on the 3-day, 3-week, 3-month rule?
Yeah, I'd like to know more about this stuff. I can take a quick look, see if I can find anything on it.
You guys okay? Hey, Tibbins. You want this disgusting piece of watermelon?
So this seems to be in regards to adopting rescue dogs?
Oh, well, I guess what I can say about that is the longer that you give them to settle in, the easier it is going to be on those animals. I think having any expectations in the first 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months is a little unfair, especially because you don't know what the animal's been through. You don't know the personality of that animal. It takes a while for them to get into a routine, to feel comfortable, to start coming out of their shell. And depending on what stage of life they're in, there can be a whole lot of changes happening for them too, in terms of hormones, in terms of hierarchy, puppyhood. All of those things are factors that come into play. So for me, I'm not a huge believer in a 3-day, 3-month, or 3-week, 3-month rule. I'm more of a case-by-case basis and evaluate as we go along. But I also, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I have a significant amount of experience with canids, and I think it's a lot easier for somebody who has that experience to point out things that may or may not be good or bad behaviors, and figure out a way to adjust what we're doing to try to get desired behaviors instead of what we perceive as negative behaviors. Hey, bud. Here, I got another one that's gross. Here, right there. You want it? Gross. I hope that answers your question. I mean, I guess it doesn't, because I'm not a big believer in it. Every animal's different, just like every person's different. They all take their own sweet time, being their own person, being their own individual. Is that good, my bird?
I imagine every pack is different in that regard as well.
Oh, obviously, yeah. I mean, think about...
learned collectively.
So, this actually is kind of funny because this ties back into non-lethal management and learned behaviors. So, wolf packs are family structures, right? And it's a dominant breeding pair, the mother and father, and their offspring that traditionally make up a pack. And in that, you'll have several generations of siblings up until they're about 3 and reach their own sexual maturity and start venturing out on their own. But it's like having a family with siblings helping to raise other siblings, so there's some intergenerational learning happening. a lot of family dynamic. But what happens if your parents and your older siblings are teaching you the only place to get food is McDonald's? That's it. There's no other place that you get food. And you don't have any experience with other families or other animals in a social situation like that. So you only know that you get food at the Golden Arches. So if you grow up and leave the house, what are you going to assume is your source for food? Golden Arches, right? That's what you've always been taught, is you go to McDonald's, and I'm not being paid for advertisement, by the way. It's the first thing that came to mind. I prefer a Wendy's burger. Sorry, McDonald's. But you go do the things that you know to do. And it's no different for wolf packs. They learn where to hunt. They learn how to hunt. They know where their food source is based on what they have learned in their pack, what their siblings, what their parents, what they have taught them. And where that continues to be a problem is especially in like southern Oregon, where this drone study took place, predominantly in rogue pack territory, who's notorious for preying on livestock. They're teaching their pack members and their young pups that this is where your food source is, that you eat this, that this is where you get your meals. And then those pups grow up and disperse into their own packs and form their own packs, and they take that knowledge with them and start teaching their offspring. So it becomes a learned behavior at that point, where they think the appropriate place to go get food is a livestock operation, because that's what they've been taught their whole lives.
That's incredibly hard for them to break. I'm not certain, but is it not nearly impossible for them if that's where they always have been getting their food?
I don't think it's impossible. I think that deterring them forces them into new behaviors, right? Forces them into new territory, forces them to look at alternative food sources, right? Because I'm not saying that these animals only strictly prey on livestock. They definitely have other options and have fed on other options, but it's not the largest part of their diet, because they're like, oh, well, we'll just go down the street to Mickey D's and get ourselves a cheeseburger. That's what they've learned.
Yep.
What happened, Bubba? Here. You want this gross piece of watermelon? Yeah, you do. I have to hold it.
I know that with the reintroduction of the wolves in Colorado, the state has made sure to incentivize ranchers to try non-lethal methods first before resorting to lethal methods on confirmed predation for their livestock.
Yes.
And that if they can prove that they have exhausted non-lethal means, I believe they're able to claim a much larger amount from the state per kill without question.
Yes. So reimbursement from the state to any rancher is complicated, because they need to prove predation on their animals. And in some cases, especially if they have animals that are grazing in large, expansive areas, not just pasture grazing, but I'm talking about in mountains and hills, in valleys, all sorts of different terrain. If you have heifers giving birth, you may not have any evidence that there was a predation to begin with, right? You may be able to verify that you have X number of cattle, like 100 head, and now one of them is missing, but can you prove that it was a wolf Or can you prove it was a predator? Is there any evidence? Is there a carcass? Is there tracks? And even tracks aren't enough sometimes. So
this may touch back into the idea that the
Stories?
aerial alpha program may ultimately be the most beneficial thing for these ranchers, because those drone cameras they can have night vision heat sensors on them.
absolutely.
And easily be able to prove through recordings that one of their animals was preyed upon.
Absolutely. I can't see the camera because Tibby is sitting, but yeah, you are 100% correct. You done? Okay, thank you. Yeah, it is absolutely a step, I think, in the right direction, because not only do you have video proof now that there are wolves in the area, you may not catch the wolves in the act, but if you can prove that one of your cows was downed and you have footage 10-15 minutes later of this pack dispersing from the area, you get to connect the dots a lot quicker. And the likelihood is you will be reimbursed for that lost livestock. The difficulty is, how do you determine what the market value is for an animal, right? If you kill an animal that's 2 months old, are you paid out the full value of that animal over its lifespan? And there's a lot of argument among cattlemen and advocacy groups and the state on whether or not these are fair prices. And, you know, every side has a point, but ultimately, to me, there's no 100% right answer. I think there's a lot of gray area. So reimbursement isn't as straightforward as we would love to think it is. Just like every other aspect of conservation, it's complicated. It's very complicated.
Yeah, these are not
Here.
black and white. They're not black and white issues, and they're not black and white solutions. And it definitely feels like they're case-by-case basis, no matter what. But ultimately, trying to find a way to make it as easy as possible for these ranchers to implement non-lethal methods before reaching for a gun is that's the ultimate goal, right? Is to find ways. What's the easiest thing for them to do, right? Is it putting flandry? Is it putting like flags on their perimeter? Is it building a fence? Or is it automating a drone to patrol their ranch and have a human voice scream at wolves that come nearby? Right? It's definitely there's so many different approaches out there, and they go up in price very quickly.
Well, that's why I said it's a case-by-case basis. There is no 100% correct answer of this is what all livestock producers should be doing. Some lease their... Hi! Are you my pretty girl? I feel good. In some cases, fences aren't a possibility because the ranchers don't own the land, they lease it, and you cannot improve upon that land. In other cases, flandry may be set up on existing fences, or you may have ranchers that want to install fences. The fences themselves will help. The flandry might help, but as far as I am aware, flandry efficacy or the effectiveness only lasts maybe 60 to 90 days before animals become habituated to it. And then start ignoring the flandry and not caring. So I would love to see a combination of different methods. I think drones allow for that, where you have the element of sound and light and this moving object. But something really cool that they didn't expect when they started They happened upon a wolf that was in a pasture with cattle, and it wasn't really doing anything with the cattle. It was a juvenile wolf that they can tell, probably about a year and a half old. And they flew the drone down to the wolf, and at this time it had no speaker system. It was just the drone with lights. And the animals started initiating play behavior. So bowing, trying to play with this drone in the air, and they're like, well, this isn't working. Like, that's not what we were intending.
That's
So
the opposite effect of what they want.
absolutely. So then they kind of went back to the drawing board and are like, well, let's equip it with a speaker, and we're going to play sounds and, noise, and that'll scare it. And they tried that, and I think it was 2 or 3 wolves that were in a section. And the wolves are kind of looking at it, but didn't really pay much mind until the operator spoke and said, "Get out of here, wolf." And then they took off. "Can I help you? What are you doing? Did you bring me this? Is that yours? Are you sharing? Hey, right here. Eat this." "Yeah, that's you being a good girl." She's sharing her watermelon. Or hiding it behind me. So yeah, they had to go take a look at what was going to be the most effective. And their initial theories were just not correct. They thought the drone itself was going to be enough, and just kidding, it's not. They thought lights and sound were going to be enough, just kidding, it's not. It's the combination of different things that end up changing or altering the wolf's behavior. So I think there is no one right method, but I think there's a combination. Hi, pretty girl. There's a combination of different methods that, when implemented in the right way for your specific situation, could drastically improve your predation results, right? Like, you hopefully won't experience predation the way that you have been, or at least that's the thought. But you also have to look at the cost of implementing these methods, right? And it's much more cost effective for a rancher to shoot an animal than it is to implement one of these methods, regardless of what it is. Truly. A bullet is much cheaper than spending a day out in the field and paying for your hands to put up landry. So it's not just... Go ahead.
It also unfortunately removes the problem from happening again, because the wolf no longer exists. Mm-hmm. So it is incredibly hard to convince them otherwise that there are better methods out there that are just as effective.
Oh, 100%. Look at this disgusting tail. That's your tail. I think that this is where becoming a strong advocate is incredibly important, right? Your words, your voice matters, and the way you use it matters. And I think I've said this before on conservation conversations, or just in general. You catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, right? That's the saying. Where I think it's much easier to have somebody see your perspective if you're willing to share the spotlight, right? You want to hear their perspective, and in turn, hopefully, they hear yours. And you may not agree, but it's a step, right? And that's really all we could hope for at the end of the day. Is I'm not expecting to change everybody's mind, but can I get them to at least acknowledge our perspective and maybe look for alternative answers? I hope so.
I absolutely agree. I think
Bird,
the
here.
approach is multifaceted. The solutions can be researched and implemented in layers. It doesn't have to just be a one size or one shoe fits all scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And it really will come down to a case-by-case basis for each individual rancher, depending on the size of their operation and their budget. What can they do to go non-lethal first?
I think there are a lot of changes that advocates can try to push for in terms of supporting or having their states specifically, support the implementation of non-lethal measures. I think that's incredibly important to advocate that way. I think it's incredibly important to make friends with your ranching community, you know. Maybe they are more apt to listen if you're like, hey, can I spend a day hanging up Flandry on your fences? Like, what's wrong with approaching them with an offer to help? You know? I think a lot of agribusiness gets a lot of hate unjustly. And I think it's bullshit. I think that we all have a responsibility to do what's right for the environment, but it doesn't mean that I'm right all the time, you know? As an advocate, I mean. But, you know, when it comes to my husband or my family, I'm right all the time. All the time. So
Yes,
if you
ma'am.
watch this, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a topic that we can talk about for ages. I really do. But I think this is maybe the best place to leave it. You know?
Yep.
Oh no. Those are some Canadian geese flying awfully low overhead. And it looked for a second like they were going to try to land here. And I'm not going to lie, I was hopeful. I'm not a fan of Canadian geese. But, you know, I can't do anything to hurt them. That's bad and that's horrible. But if they so happen to land in this pen, I'm not going to shed a tear. It's maybe the wrong thing to say for conservation work, but I hate those geese.
Well, I definitely think for this topic there's a lot more to discuss, and I think it's going to come up again.
I think it's something that we can absolutely discuss again. I would love to see if I could get Dustin or Paul, who are the project leads for the drone project, who are leading this research. It's their idea. It's not Big Bad's. Okay, so don't get the wrong idea. Like, we were like super innovative and we're like, well, how about drones? Let's do some research into drones. It wasn't us. I wish we could take that credit, but we can't. APHIS and USDA are the ones that are pioneering this research, who have done the research back in 2022, who have a paper pending publication that is peer-reviewed. I think that these guys can obviously speak to this more than I can. I am just thankful that I was able to have initial conversations with them to try to figure out if this is something that we should be raising awareness on. And obviously we think so because we launched Aerial Allies. And we are putting our money where our mouth is. We will help fund and support future research because we think that this is a method that's worth looking into. Hi. Oh, belly rubs. You got those belly rubs. So yeah, I'm hoping that in the future we can go ahead and have Dustin or Paul on, or both, and we can sit and talk about the future of their research, where the project is now, when they plan on starting, when they plan on ending, if they're conducting in the same area. I'm sure there's plenty of questions, all right? But it's one of those things where I'd like to wait a little bit towards maybe the end of summer before we have them on and speak specifically on the topic of drones and non-lethal management. I also want to reach out to other organizations and see if we can feature them and have them, you know, do Q&As live, talk about what their research is and what they're doing as organizations, because the only way that this works is if we're collaborative and supportive of each other, you know, and I think that all of these things need to happen.
Absolutely. I would love to have, when we have them on, to have small video samples prepared that we can show on screen of the wolves interacting with the drones.
Absolutely. So I think what we could do prior to that, we could probably have another meetup discussion. I have those videos. Like we have access to that content, and I would be happy to promote that and share that, and I can ping them and see if there's any additional content they want shared. Yeah, but I know there's some footage that we have access to that we can promote without issue.
That's awesome.
Here.
Okay, so I think with that, we'll call it on today's conservation conversation.
Yeah, I want to come inside. I'm cold.
Yeah. Will the ports usually?
All right.
So the next one again is next week.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking, I believe, is tentative, but enrichment.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking a little bit about enrichment. It's something that has come up a few times in other conversations. And we want to talk a little bit about how we use enrichment here at Big Bad for our animals, from, you know, cognitive enrichment to social enrichment to food-based enrichment, like watermelon. But it is definitely something that I think people have questions about, and a lot of the things that we do are appropriate for you to do with your domestic dog at home. So, yeah, I think that's going to be the topic next week, and we can chat a little bit more about it and bring all the questions. We'll try to provide some of the answers and go from there. Great.
All right, I'm putting the information here. The next conservation conversation will be on the 18th of May at 1 p.m. EST. Bagel, thank you so much for the questions. Thanks for hanging out, and I hope to see you next week. And
yeah.
Maybe we can get a few more people in, and we can get this ball rolling. I know it's only been a couple of weeks that we've been doing this. Oh, and there goes the camera. So that is the perfect time for us to end the stream. Get ran out of bed.
Nice. Good job.
Right on cue. All right.
10 out of 10.
Guys,
All right. Bye, everybody.